Wearable trends for autumn this year. I love being able to draw inspiration from trends, but I feel like it's also really important to know when to reject and avoid a trend. At best, a trend is something that I feel really inspired by and has a long-lasting influence on my style. And at worst, a trend is something that is quite wasteful and leads us to create outfits that maybe don't feel authentic to us. So in today's video, I'm going to dive deeper into these autumn trends, talk about exactly what the trend is, who it will work for, what we should look out for within this trend, and especially how to recreate using pieces we might already have. I'm working with a lot of older pieces in my wardrobe, so just being a little bit resourceful and figuring out how to wear these trends within what I already own. The very first fall autumn trend I want to talk about is red. This is also my favorite one, and as you can tell, it's definitely something I've embraced in my wardrobe. So why don't we start with the inspiration and then we'll kind of do a bit of analysis. So we're seeing a lot of head to toe red outfits. I'm seeing a lot of texture paired with red, whether that be sheer or whether that is shiny silk. In these images, you can't deny that it is bold. It's red from head to toe. Otherwise, it's red paired with black. It's really creating that very striking, bold look. A variation of this trend, and this one I'm especially drawn to, is the tomato red trend. So this one is a little bit warmer. I feel like the color palette here especially is a little bit softer. With colors and trends, I am definitely someone who believes that a color cannot go out of style. And especially if this color suits you, you look good in it, it works with your wardrobe, I don't believe that it will ever go out of style. And especially in this case when we're talking about red. It's really the most classic and timeless color. For most people, you probably get an immediate reaction from red. You either like it and you love the boldness of it, or you don't. Say you decide you love red and you're kind of ready to embrace this trend. The next question I like to ask myself is whether I will actually wear it. You know, I like to go back into my wardrobe, take out the colorful pieces, see how many times I've worn that in the last week or month or year, and if I never wear color, then maybe this one is something I can appreciate but not necessarily buy into. So a big recommendation I have is understanding how to pair red. On the runway, when we saw red with black, it's a very dramatic look, and I feel like a lot of people, because they want to tone down red, they'll pair it with basic pieces in black and white. And what it actually does is that it intensifies the red. This is something that took me a long time to understand, and for years, I had red pieces in my wardrobe that I loved, but I just didn't really wear them because they would always feel too intense when I tried to tone it down with black and white. And only recently in the last 2 years, when I've started pairing it with grays, with browns, with blues, that's come together a lot more. I could probably talk all day about color. A general rule is that if you have warm skin, you go for the warmer shades, cool skin, the cooler shades, but you know, rules are made to be broken, and I think trying it on is the most important thing. Very quickly, let me show you how I'm gonna wear this trend in my wardrobe. This is the only new trend piece I'm showing in today's video, but it's a red cashmere knit. This is a piece I cannot wait to style, whether that is worn with like some little shorts or a skirt, or whether that is layered inside my coat, just for that pop of color. If you're getting into red or getting into color, I would recommend not buying it in a dress, and instead going for a top or a knit. And the reason behind this is that it's really easy to layer it and then maybe just have a little bit of the collar show through. And then you can also intensify it and wear it by itself. So there's just a lot more range in how you can style it. I was really passionate about that one, but I'm gonna try and go through these trends just a little bit quicker. This next trend has been called different names. I saw an article call it Real Talk, and I saw another article call it Normcore, and I really hate both, but I do understand the concept, which is taking athleisure, casual wear, things that we reach for in our real lives, and then mixing it with really elevated pieces. But I feel like in the last 10 years, or even just more recently, there has been much more of a mix and match approach. We don't see our clothes as outfits anymore, we see it as things that can take us from gym to dinner, to work. We want that versatility from our clothing. So with that in mind, let's take a look at this trend and what's on the runway. On the Miu Miu runway, I'm kind of looking at my laptop here, we saw tights, hoodies, paired with a nicer, more polished outerwear and bag. So this is really that blend of casual and more elevated. We've got looks like this one with a very athletic looking tank top and then just a nicer wide trouser. The idea is also in this image where we've got the most dramatic hoodie, and then we've got a leather or pleather skirt. Very, very casual on top, very sleek and polished on the bottom. If you've been on my channel before, you know that this concept is right up my alley. I love mixing and matching. I think my last video was about it. So many of my videos are about it, but I love doing casual with polish. Taking a blazer, dressing it down, taking a sweatshirt, dressing it up, and just getting the most out of my clothes. A lot of the clothes I'm drawn to is more polished. A lot of my lifestyle is more casual. So I feel like by blending the formal with the casual, I'm able to wear those pieces I love. And I'm really just making those clothes work for me. I also feel like this trend has come from the point of view of versatility. If we have outfits, like an outfit for evening, an outfit for casual, we end up just having so many outfits, so many clothes. Whereas when we can mix and match everything, we actually don't need as much and we get more outfits. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. I just want to quickly circle back to what I was saying before. I feel like in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s, you often had these outfits, like set combinations that were matching top and bottom. And then in the 70s, I'm seeing a lot of this like bell sleeve top, you know, bell bottom look, and you still have that matchiness there. Even in 2000s, I feel like wearing those like sweatshirt sets, you still had tops and bottoms playing at the same level. And I really feel like we're at an exciting point where mixing and matching is everything. I feel like it's a current look where you mix high and low together, you mix formal, casual, and everything just kind of goes. Today's video is definitely just my thoughts, my interpretation of all of this. So I would love to hear from you and let me know what you think of all of these trends. The best part of this trend, whether you call it normcore or like whatever, is that it's so easy to recreate. You definitely don't need anything new to achieve this look. The next fall autumn trend is a black coat, but this time with a little bit of a twist. So when you first see black coat, you think that's such a classic, but the black coats that are all over the runway are ones that are very tailored, with very sharp details. So sharp on the shoulders and oftentimes also sharp on the lapels. Most of the time these coats are also maxi length or at least a midi. So it's important to know that this is a runway look. When you take it off the runway into the stores, what you'll get is a less dramatic version of this. And already on End of a Stories, on a range of websites, I was seeing this coat pop up. What I'm talking about here is something very tailored at the shoulders, maybe slightly more dramatic than our actual shoulder line. It's not as exaggerated as runway, of course. And then we're also working with a longer length that ends below the knee. If you're looking for a new winter coat and you're deciding if this one is for you, I would say there are two kind of main questions I'm asking. Do I look good in these sharper shapes? This is the complete opposite of the drop shoulder that I like, and I find that I tend to look better in these softer, rounder shapes versus something very angular and sharp. If you guys know of the Kibi body typing system, something that I'm very intrigued by, but it usually says that people with angular features, sharpness in their bones would look better in these more tailored clothing shapes. Whereas people who look softer, more rounded, will tend to look better in rounder shapes. So for myself personally, I do feel like I have more rounded features versus angular, and I tend to feel like these coat shapes are probably not gonna look the best on me. So that's consideration number one, whether it will actually look good on me. And then the second consideration is that anything more tailored, sharper, it will look a bit more dressy. So for my personal lifestyle, I mentioned before, these are a little bit too put together for my everyday life. Whereas with a drop shoulder, I can still make it look very casual and effortless on the daily. So asking yourself whether this more tailored, more put together coat is going to suit your everyday lifestyle. This is one that I love the look of on the runway, but I'm not getting a ton of inspiration from, and I don't think it's one that is for me. I also don't tend to love black. I prefer navy, grey, just slightly softer neutrals versus a black. Probably the trend that we are all so sick of hearing is quiet luxury. So maybe we just kind of refer to this as 90s minimalism, because I feel like it's the same thing, just kind of rebranded time and again. We all know this trend. It's about very good cut, fabric, and quality with a pared back color palette. That's what I think of for quiet luxury. I'm going to keep this one short because we all know what it is. I feel like if we're doing this trend right, we're definitely not buying anything new. And the reason is we're just kind of wearing what we have, wearing them till they maybe wear out. And then what we're doing is that we're also just saving our money for the future when we find the right piece in really good quality fabric and cut. Because I do what I do, I get a lot of newsletters, and I've gotten so many newsletters where There's a capsule of pieces that fit into quiet luxury, and there's like 20 new things to buy. So that's just not the point, I think, of this trend. It's really about buying very slowly in a very considered way and then keeping that just for a long time in our wardrobe. In my wardrobe, one of my favorite ways to wear this trend is with this knit. So this is a really basic navy knit. It's got some buttons on the sleeve, but more importantly, I feel like it has this really nice rib texture. Because of the texture, once I style that piece into an outfit, it definitely has this luxurious feel as opposed to maybe a plain, no texture knit. Details in the texture, the fabric, they really make the biggest difference in this trend. I'm always so proud when I don't get swayed or influenced by trends that don't work for me. And this is where I'm going to talk about the oversized bag. It was everywhere last year, it still seems to be a trend this year. In one of my last kind of trend videos, I actually tried on an oversized bag and I don't mind the way it looks. It's actually kind of a cool slouchy vibe. But the issue is practicality. If I was carrying so many things that it didn't fit in my normal bags and I needed this really large one, chances are it's so heavy and I would be better off splitting it into like a separate tote and my usual bag. And then if you can imagine, once you put something into a huge bag, you'll probably never find it again. So you either need some really smart pockets in this bag, or to be honest, just a smaller bag. If you're more petite like me, I feel like a big bag can just feel extremely out of place on me. Almost feels like I could fit in my bag. So that's also been a consideration of mine, and I know that this bag trend is not for me. So if you're interested in this look, I would just pay attention to the things I've mentioned. Make sure that there are compartments where you can put your most accessed essentials. Make sure that the bag itself is light. Don't start with a heavy bag and then put more stuff in. And then really try to look for something very slouchy, very soft versus overly structured, as that will make the bag bigger, and oftentimes structured bags are heavier as well. Definitely one that I'll continue to skip this year. We've got a few different trends next that I've kind of grouped together in one. So on one hand, we've got this gothic romance look where we're seeing a lot of velvet with lace, and it's more of a darker, dramatic look, with very contrasting and interesting textures at play. And then on the other hand, we've got these darker florals, which I feel like are always pretty popular for autumn, but I guess we're seeing it a lot on the runway. All of this ties into this gothic, slightly moodier vibe, which I'm also seeing a lot in stores and from the brands I like. There's a lot of lace with velvet, creating this visually very eye-catching look. There's definitely a lot of drama, a lot of statement pieces. This trend is something I feel very inspired by. I get a lot of inspiration from, even though it's not my usual look or style. So what I'm taking away here is just going slightly darker and deeper with my colors. So I'm wearing florals, maybe going for like a darker lipstick. I'm just going a bit deeper, moodier with the vibe. And that is definitely something that I just feel like it's really fun to play around with, especially if it's just updating a lip shade and not necessarily me just buying tons of pieces in this trend. I don't know if this is a trend that is worth me splurging on because it's not my usual look, so I just want to embrace it with pieces I already have. A part of it I do really like is that play with texture, so specifically velvet. I feel like that's a really luxurious texture, especially going into the holiday season as well, so that could be really fun to play with a little bit more. So I feel like with a lot of these outfits, once I create it, it's actually not going to have this moodiness in the look. The point of it is to take small elements and let it inspire our daily looks, which is kind of what I'm doing in this tip here. Those were the majority of things I want to speak about, but let's quickly go over some smaller trends that I've also noticed and seen. So scarves. The scarf looks on the runway, I feel like were truly not my cup of tea. I really didn't like them. The scarves in general, I would be so happy to embrace more. I've got a few bigger scarves and smaller scarves, and I recently was given a few scarves from my auntie. My auntie has a few scarves in her collection that she hasn't worn in years, and she's very kindly passed them on to me, which is just so special. One of the trends right now is the off-the-shoulder top or off-the-shoulder dress. This is something that I've loved in my wardrobe for years, and I have noticed being able to find a lot more of them in the recent months. This is a trend I can fully embrace because I'm just seeing more of it in stores. I'm seeing it in different fabrics and options, and there's just more to choose from. The reason why I like this trend is that I find it very flattering just to show the collarbone and like the top of the shoulders. It's very elegant, and it's definitely a body part I love to play up, whether that is on a date night or whether that is just like in my everyday dressing. I find it very flattering. Let's talk quickly about peplum, which is another trend. And I feel like peplum can look really nice or really bad on me. And I like to bring it back to whether it cinches in at the waist. Some peplum tops, they're quite loose on the waist and then they just flare out. Tops like this can be quite unflattering on me because it gives a very boxy look as the waist is not defined. And then a good peplum top for me is when it really cinches in at the waist and then it flares out. That observation is just something very personal to me that I've noticed with peplum tops. But generally, if you feel like you look best when your waist is defined, when you tuck your top in, then look for the peplum tops that will give you that waist definition before flaring out, because I find it a lot more flattering as someone who really likes to have a defined waist. This peplum shape, I feel like it's not impossible to recreate. It's really just a very fitted top tucked into a bigger A-line skirt, and you'll get that peplum look. So if you love the peplum look and you don't want to buy anything, you can definitely recreate that silhouette just with separates. That was my edit of wearable trends for fall autumn. Let me know in the comments down below which one of these trends you liked, which one you really didn't like, and are there any that you'll be wearing this season. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.